McDonnell Douglas F4 Phantom was one of the most iconic aircraft of the Vietnam War. It was affectionately sometimes called the Louisville Slugger by its pilots, named after the hard-hitting baseball bat. And during the war it was hard-hitting indeed, capable of carrying up to 18,650 pounds of ordnance, and flown by American Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps flyers. It flew thousands of missions in Southeast Asia. Some 5,195 Phantoms were built between 1958 and 1981. 761 Phantoms were lost in that long war. In 1952, McDonnell's, faced with the prospect of no new aircraft sales on the horizon, concluded the Navy had the greatest need for a new and different aircraft type, an attack fighter. In 1953, McDonnell Aircraft began work on revising its F-3H Demon naval fighter. In September 1953, McDonnell approached the United States Navy with a proposal for the Super Demon. Uniquely, the aircraft was to be modular. It could be fitted with 1- or 2-seat noses for different missions. On July 25, 1955, the Navy ordered 2 test aircraft and 5 pre-production fighters. The Phantom made its maiden flight on 27 May 1958, with Robert C. Little at the controls. A hydraulic problem precluded retraction of the landing gear, but subsequent flights went more smoothly. Early testing resulted in the redesign of the air intakes, including the distinctive addition of 12,500 bleed holes on each ramp. In 1959, the Phantom began carrier suitability trials with the first complete launch recovery cycle performed on 15 February 1960 from USS Independence. Early in production, the radar was upgraded. The bulbous nose and the canopy was reworked to improve visibility and make the rear cockpit less claustrophobic. The Phantom underwent a great many changes during its career. The U.S. Air Force received Phantoms as a result of Defense Secretary Robert McNamara's push to create a unified fighter for all branches of the military. Unlike Navy focus on interception, the U.S. Air Force emphasized a fighting bomber role. With McNamara's unification of designs on 18 September 1962, the Phantom became the F-4 with the naval version designated F-4B and the U.S. Air Force F-4C. Fight at will. The massive aircraft, designed to fire radar-guided missiles from beyond visible range, lacked the agility of its Soviet opponents and was subject to reverse yaw during hard maneuvering. Although thus subject to irrevocable spins during airline rolls, pilots reported the aircraft to be very communicative and easy to fly on the edge of its performance envelope. The Phantom will always be remembered for its tenacious service during the long Vietnam War. From the initial deployment of the F-4C to Southeast Asia, U.S. Air Force Phantoms perform both air superiority and ground attack roles. Troops in South Vietnam, but also conducting bombing sorties in Laos and North Vietnam. It became the primary U.S. Air Force ordnance delivery system in that long and very determined fight. In 1972, the F4E model was upgraded with leading-edge slats on the wing, greatly improving high angle of attack maneuverability at the expense of top speed. The F4's biggest weakness, as it was initially designed, was its lack of an internal cannon. For a brief period, doctrine held that turning combat would be impossible at supersonic speeds, and little effort was made to teach pilots air combat maneuvering. In reality, engagements quickly became subsonic. Furthermore, the relatively new heat-seeking and radar-guided missiles at the time were frequently reported as unreliable, and pilots had to use multiple shots just to hit one target. To compound the problem, rules of engagement in Vietnam precluded long-range missile attacks in most instances, as visual identification was normally required. Many pilots find themselves on the tail of an enemy aircraft, but too close to fire short-range Falcon or Sidewinders. Although in 1967, U.S. Air Force F-4Cs began carrying SUU-16 or SUU-23 external gun pods containing a 20mm M61. The external cannon, while not great for air-to-air combat, could be very effective to lay down a massive barrage of bullets to keep the Viet Cong and North Vietnamese at bay. This, along with its bombs, proved to be particularly important. This would also prove to be useful during the long siege at Khe Sanh in 1968, where the U.S. Marines were nearly overwhelmed. But the Marines and Phantoms prevailed, and the battle was won. After the Vietnam War, the Phantom was gradually replaced by more modern aircraft such as the F-16, the F-14, and the F-15. Still, a reconnaissance version flew during the 1991 Gulf War. It was finally retired from American service in 1996 after a long and very proud run.